Okay, so this is Big Hairy Dog. This is a webinar on marketing for Retail Pro, and that's a rough agenda. I added one little thing at the bottom there just because we're talking about both versions, I guess, of Retail Pro. Um, well, we're talking about version 8 and version 9. Prism's not really on the discussion table today, although we could look at it if we had to. But I think most of us are interested in version 8 and version 9, and so we're going to look
Correct.
at POS flags and some reporting. And you guys are all on version 8 or version 9?
Version 8.
All right, all right. Mostly everything's the same. Um, the marketing aspect of the customer drilling down into customer data is slightly easier in version 9, but the features exist in both sides, so it's not that big a deal. But all right, so let's talk about, I guess, POS flags. So a POS flag, and I'm in version 9. Let's get in version 8. We'll do it in both versions here. A POS flag is a demographic question, I guess. So, like, here's a good example of one here in the version 8 install. I've got. So if I wanted to know whether the customer was male or female, I could use a POS flag. I could default it to no flag, and I could require them to answer the question to make a sale. Now,
Okay.
for most customers, it wouldn't matter. Who cares? But for some businesses, I'm thinking sports apparel.
Okay.
That's critical because the male market has been saturated for years. The female market's the emerging market.
Yep.
And then there are a few other businesses. It's important to know what the women are buying because let's face it, guys just pick stuff up and buy it. Women shop. They probably put more thought into it too, but you know.
Yeah.
So we can make this menu be anything we want. We can put in up to 7 options. We can default it to either setting no flag or last flag, and then we can require it optionally at the bottom. That's all there is to a POS flag. Now, with POS flags, of course, I've got to add, if you require it, and you don't have it on your screen, so I'm just alluding to basic screen design here, right? Like right now, okay, so the flags are off the screen. Let's see if I can squeak it out a little bit here. Okay, there we go. So there's the flag at the bottom. I made my screen a lot smaller so that the webinar would present better. So as part of the screen's getting cut off the bottom, I could resize it. But so if this wasn't on there, right, I would be dead. I would be down. So if I ring up an item and I go to tender, see, it's going to make me enter that field because I required it. So if they don't have access to this field, then you're down. So, take some coordination. If you're going to roll one of these out, you've got to make sure your screen designs are in place first, and then turn the preference on, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, I would say, it's a good thing to do. So these things can be very useful. I've had people use POS flags very successfully up in Alaska to track like cruise lines because when one cruise line's in port, they may be a different clientele completely than the next cruise line. So they want to run a report very quickly and see what those customers bought last time they were in port, right? If it's a high-end cruise line, they're pushing high-end merchandise, and if it's a low-end cruise line, they're probably pushing more of the Chosky stuff, right? I mean, so
Yeah.
everybody's different on that. Ski shops like to track like the kind of snow, or whether it's wet snow or whether it's dry and the wind's blowing. You know what I mean? They want to know what merchandise to have out for the customers. What do they buy when the conditions are like this?
Oh, okay. So you can go based on condition.
Well, you get to put them in there, right? So
Yeah.
they go put in whatever they want. Yeah, I mean, this is
Wow, that's nice.
there's 3 of these, so you can, and you got to be a little careful here. If you put in something stupid, then your salespeople aren't going to respect it, and you're going to get crap data.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just going to pick the first thing in the menu every time, right?
Okay.
So
Mhm.
with a ski resort, who works at a ski resort? Well, ski bums work at ski resorts. So what do they care about? They care about snow. So they're probably going to give you accurate information. Now, with that kind of situation, though, you would default it to last flag, right? If it's cold, or if it's wet, or if it's dry snow, or if it's blowing, or whatever the conditions are you're tracking, once they set it for the first transaction, they could just default it to that setting for the rest of the day.
Okay.
So anyway,
Interesting.
and then of course, well, we have this one set up. So let's see if there's any data in here. I don't even know. So in V8 analysis reports, summaries, let's just see here. Let's just say new, a sales merchandise report, say hypothetically. And let's call this POS Flag 1. And we'll just set our date range to something. I have some data in here. I don't know how much, really, because this is like a sandbox where I just screw around mostly. But let's go to sorting here, and let's say POS. So POS flag are right there in my sorting. So I could sort or group this so that the level of detail of this report is at the POS flag level. Now it could be filtered too, but let's just deal with one thing at a time. So there's POS flag 1. My magic mouse is getting a little too magic here, isn't it? All right, so yeah, I guess we're gonna need some stuff like this, right? So there's like a super simple report, and totals, grand totals, save, print. See, what do we get? I don't know if we're gonna get anything at all. Right, so that's let's blow this up so we can all see it, because I can't see it. That's going the wrong way. So some of these were set, some of these weren't, but you can see how many items I sold and how many dollars I sold by each of the flags that were set, right? Now the other option would be to run an item level report or a department level report and filter for one or other of those flags, right?
So would this be help with like departmentalizing the store or zoning the store in that sense? You can run reports based on the flags on that you designated.
You can absolutely run reports based on the flags. So if we go back into reports here, where the heck does reports go? All right, filters. So if I take my basic sales filter right there, go to edit, type in here POS. There's my POS flag, right? So I could add the POS flag to the sales filter. So now it's just right here at the bottom. Save that. So now if I go back into reports, all my basic sales reports, what is going on with my reports? They all use that sales filter. See that? So I could now say department summary. Okay, let's get some data, because there's not going to be any data in the last 3 or 4 months. It's going to be completely dead, because this data was loaded a while ago. And anyway, so if I say whatever, 12 months, start 12 months ago, that gives us probably some data. And then if I come over to filter and come down to the bottom here where I added that, I could say, oh, okay, I only want to see things that were purchased by a woman. So this is a department summary, so it's going to show me departments, because that's what I asked for. And boom, there's all the breakdown of what women purchased by department.
Wow.
So a POS flag is really useful for whatever it is you need to track, right? But I don't want to recommend you just go crazy with these, because you put all 3 in, cashiers are going to get annoyed. It's 3 extra keystrokes or 3 extra settings they've got to do for every single sale.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So that could be a real bummer too. You know what I mean? Not a good implementation of.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
anyway,
Okay.
that's a POS flag. Let's just peek over here in version 9, and version 9 is down here in roughly the same place. Um, POS flag, same thing though. So here we've got one that says marketing, where they walk in, where they website, brochure, or friend, social impact. I don't know where this data came from. Um, so they're tracking different things. Now, some of that gets to be pretty vague. I mean, if your average cashier's out there, are they going to know, to set it to weather?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So.
Now, in version 9 reporting, uh, version 9 reporting is a little bit different animal than version 8 reporting. Um, so in version 9, there are some reports that Big Hairy Dog has built to do roughly the same thing we did here a minute ago with that first report we just ran in version 8. And so in the custom reports area for version 9, those are all Big Hairy Dog reports. There's a whole bank of these POS flag reports. So I've got it at the company level and I've got them at the store level. So we'll just run this. And I don't know if there's actually any data in this V9 to look at. So I'm just going to click OK with no date range and see if I get anything at all. Now, I can modify reports in V9. I have Crystal. No, there's no data. See, so 100% is null value, basically.
Okay.
But it would be showing male and female. And now, the other thing is in V9, of course, I can do calculations. In V8, you can't. V8's report engine, I'm beating up on V8, but realize that for its time, V8's quick shooting from the hip ability to create reports at the end user level is amazing, and it's still amazing today. And it's done a great job for well over a decade. V8 reports rock, but they only went so far. They couldn't do
Yeah.
calculations. So this
Yeah.
penetration over here, I can do in V9. It's just
Okay.
you can't shoot from the hip in V9.
Yeah.
You got to have the
Exactly.
report built for you, or you got to have Crystal.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, um, so POS flags. Hopefully everybody's on board with that. I don't see any questions in my little panel on the left. So I'm going to push forward, I guess, with next topic here, which is customers and preferences. So um, let's go ahead and dive into that. So the simplest thing we can do in marketing to customers is when we enter them, enter the right information so that we can retrieve that record when the opportunity knocks, right? So if we go into a customer database and we look into a customer database form view, we have, I'm not seeing what we want here, but all right, that's okay. My screen design could be whacked. All right, so these fields here, these auxiliary fields, these miscellaneous fields here, what do we got here? Let's go user define what's in here. Okay, all right, excellent. So I'm just going to add all these in here. And we're going to make sure that group is on the page. And it is right there, excellent. So these here are all these things, and you see what this data is kind of built on sports apparel, obviously. Um, and all these things that say aux or UDF. UDF stands for user defined field, and aux just stands for auxiliary. But there's two different banks of user defined fields, basically. So how this works is we could go out and give like aux1 here. We'll just pick on aux1. Let's back out to the main menu. Let's go into options, system preferences. And in here, we could go ahead and find that customer user defined aux field. Boom. So here we could name this whatever we want. So what's a good example of something we would want to know about a customer? Favorite vendor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Favorite
So,
vendor.
you know, I always use VC for vendor code, but then over here, right? So this is a drop-down menu, right? We could pick any field we want. Over here, we could put in whatever, Nike and Reebok, whatever, right? We can
Mm-hmm.
two E's in Reebok, right? It tells you how much I know. Anyway, um, so then as we enter customers, right? As we create customer records and we put them in there, we could actually then fill in the blank, right? So now that field has been populated the way I populated it,
Oh wow.
and I can go ahead and set values as I go. So um, I set up a like an orthotics like store, you know,
Mhm.
and they had a whole questionnaire of things they had to ask every customer, and then they had this card index where they put these things, and then they would file them away. And we just ended up using all these switches, and we ended up actually getting all their questions into this screen, so they didn't have to use the cards anymore. They could just fill it out
Wow.
right on the screen here, and then they could just look it up and quickly have all their answers. Like, because some of these are text editable, like these fields, these kinds
Mhm.
of fields up here, you can just type into if you want to, but these
Yeah.
down here you can't.
Mm. Yeah, you would have to set it.
Right. So you have to know, just using the right field for the right thing. Like they wanted to know what was the doctor that prescribed the orthotic, and what was their condition, and then they had a lot of other questions that needed to be very structured. So we use these ones at the bottom. So
Wow.
you can do anything you want here. It just comes down to what you want to track.
Yeah.
A common one is like a birth month, not birthday. Nobody wants to get too personal.
Yeah.
So I just want to know if you're a June baby, then in May I'm running a report for all the June birthdays, and I
Mhm.
don't need to know your exact birthday. I just need to know you're born in June, right?
I see. Yeah.
It's easier to
Would
filter
there
for.
be
Go ahead.
and there be something like that as well if they've like almost like 100 top customers as well, or is that a separate entity?
No, you could absolutely do that. Um, that
Okay.
that's coming later on here. We're going to be talking about that
Okay.
kind of filtering. This is we're starting basic though, and this is just the
Okay.
simplest thing. Like if favorite vendor is like hey, we're going to do a trunk show from one of our vendors. Let's get all the people that said they like that vendor, and let's do a little mailing, right?
Ah, that's nice. Okay.
I mean, anything we can do to plant the seeds in here for data that we could harvest later. You know what I mean? That's all this is.
Exactly.
So let's quickly pop out here and say, well, let's do this. Let's go like this. Let's do a little filtering, and then we'll shift over and take a look at some of the other tools we have that can get into more of the like history related stuff, right? That's kind of, I think, what you were alluding to here a minute ago.
Yeah.
So let's go like this. So I just added this to the screen so I don't have to like be in form view the whole time, right? So we can, um, and I hope that everybody knows that if I set a few of these fields, I'm just going to have to start. All right.
Oh wow.
That's what I'm looking for. I was looking for the keyboard shortcut so I didn't have to keep moving the mouse. So everybody gets that if we had a number of these set, right, that we could easily go to filtered view, right? We could add that field to the filtered view, right? And we
Mhm.
could we could filter for them anytime, right? Everybody knows that clear all, set the
Yeah.
field to Nike, right? Boom. We could get these records back, and we could sort them if we wanted to. Everybody knows that you can sort the filtered views, right, by like last name and then first name, and
Mhm.
or by zip code, right?
Mm.
I guess that was in the R's, huh? All right, so then we all
Yeah.
know that if we wanted to, we could then pop over to the address field or the phone field or whatever field we wanted that had any data we wanted. We could highlight any number of fields we want here, and we could say, select those fields for me and export them, right?
Yep.
So hopefully everybody's on board with that. Um, all right, anyway, we don't really care about that spreadsheet, so I'm going to close that. Um, Now, that being said, cancel filter, filtered view, clear all. I am going to point out that in version 8 and in version 9, both of them, there is a, and for version 8, it's named funny, right, customer system date. In version 9, it's just called the create date. So we can look at version 9 too, but the point is that if I wanted to just do something as simple as I'd like to send a thank you card to everybody who came into the store and entered their data in my database, right? I just want to go out and find everybody that's from this month or last month, or you know what I mean, 1 month ago. That's not going to work for me, is it? So we'll go 12 months ago. But I could go find everybody who was created recently, if you see what I'm saying.
Yes.
So that's not, it's not in the filter by default because the system date was added sort of late in Retail Pros 8's development. So you have to go at it because it was an add-on. They tacked it on later on.
I see.
So, and of course out here in version 9, the same thing exists except you have a create date. Do we have it already in one of the fields? It'd be really super sweet. That'd be a big no, huh? All right, excellent. And what about our filtered view in version 9? Negative. All right, excellent. So design mode, and I think we're just going to go down to the C's here. Customer, share date, created date, right? So created date is down here, so we can easily do the same thing in version 9. And of course, the same thing applies to the auxiliary fields, and they set up roughly the same way. We'll just peek at the setup real quick, just because I don't think we need to go through and set a field up. But here they're grouped together. They're in one menu instead of two. There are security settings in version 9 that allow you to edit those fields or not edit those fields. So you can't cherry pick which field you can edit. If you turn on edit, you turn on edit for all fields.
Oh, okay.
In version 9. So, but yeah, at a low level, that's a sweet way to plant data out there and then retrieve it later and be able to filter for it. All right, so right, list reports. I should mention that before we move on. Okay, so in sales reports. All right, fair enough. All right, so list reports, probably the least used section of reporting, but mostly what it's used for is customer address lists, right? So if we want to get the same thing that we just did in filtered view, right? We could go and take one of these and run this, and we could probably filter it the same way. So let's just click edit, by the way, on this, see what it's using. In my little sandbox is being a little obnoxious. I hate this report. Those are stacked fields. I hate stacked fields. It's a personal problem. But anyway, let's click edit filter, and let's pop in here, and you see that we have, right, there's aux1, right? So I could go ahead and filter by whatever's in aux1. So I could also do, I don't think create date's in version 8 reports. I'm pretty sure it's not. Elements, customer system date. I think it missed getting added to the report section.
Okay, that's fine.
Anyway, so obviously we could run this if we wanted to, and we could get a list that we could also export out if we wanted to export it out the same way. Everybody, I think, knows how to do that. If you're doing something and you want to get it to Excel, you want to avoid these stacked fields. Stacked fields are ones with slashes. So you seem to be pretty familiar with them, Edgar, but I'm not sure everybody else who's connected is. So I'm just going to run this real fast and show them what I mean. Right. So that's really some bad records, but you see how we got stacks going on. We've got like first, last, title, company here it's stacking up the address and all fields, which means if you export this to Excel, you can't sort it. So if you're looking to do that, anyway, so let's talk about, and I will just peek into here real quick. Same thing exists in here. We still have list reports. They're right here. There's a lot more, actually. There's gift card reports in here that aren't in V8, but vendor, department, customer, and employee are the big four. There have been both, and yes, we have the same thing here, and yes, I could run them, and I will get a list of customers in V9. Now, and this is also stacked. Not overly fond of that, but there you go. I can fix that, by the way, in V9 if you're a V9 person. Anyway, sales reports in V8. So the reason that we put this on the agenda is because in V8, the sales reports capture specific information. So what I mean is that from the customer database, the customer's name is captured, first and last name, their title, their address 1, 2, and 3, their zip code, and that's it. That's all that's captured. So on the receipt, if I were to go look at a former receipt, if I were to go crack the record open and look inside the actual database in version 8, I would find that on every receipt, the customer's name is physically placed on the receipt.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sales report, I can sort by any field that exists in the sales data in version 8. So since zip code is there, I could sort by zip code in a sales report. That's kind of cool. I could sort
Nice.
by
Okay.
description 3. I mean, customer address 3 that would hopefully
Wow.
have my city state.
Interesting.
But I
So you can almost
can't.
mark.
But I can't get their phone number.
Interesting.
Right. So that's the
Based on the
limitation.
sales report.
Based on the sales report. Now, in V8,
Okay.
if you wanted to say, give me the top 100 customers, which easy to do, right? That's not really rocket science by any means. In fact, if we go to sales summaries in either version, I think, customer top 100 in V9, and I think we can do the same thing in V8 summaries. Come on. Why is my magic mouse magic when I don't want it to be, and then not magic? Anyway, top 100 customers. So easy to find those, right? But if we go to edit here and we want to add things to this report, we're not going to find things like phone number. So if I want to find so here's their title, their first, their last, all combined into one field. These are like very big fields, 32 characters each. That's 64 characters. Your average at normal font size, you got 80 characters across and 8.5 by 11. So this is the lion's share of the page. So that's why you get into these things here where customer name half size or customer name quarter size or quarter size inverted, last name first, right? Let me see. I think in V8 they're at the bottom. I'm wrong. Yeah, there they are right there. So there's your address fields, right? So address 1, address 2, address 3, and the zip code. So I could absolutely add those, but I don't have phone numbers not here. Now, there is a trick in V8 that you can do. Don't need to do it in V9, but in V8, if you wanted to track customers by something beyond, you could either take an address 2 or set of 3, and right, you could sacrifice that, or you could sacrifice the title field, which makes the most sense actually. Nobody uses titles anymore. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you do that, you just got to make sure that in V8 you turn it off. So there is a setting, if I can figure out where it is. It's been a while. Options, system preferences. Is it by the customers? I don't even remember, man. That's been a while. I think it's for some reason. I think it's down. Yeah, I am not finding it, and I'm feeling really dumb now. There is a setting though, and I can find it if I need to. But there's a setting that turns off. Oh no, there it is, right there. Right. So order to display full name field. So I can have it include the title or not. Right. So if you're going to hack the title field, if you're going to say this is a wholesale customer, this is not, or this is a, this is a club member or whatever, right, with that, and then be able to filter by it and sort by it in reporting, then you got to turn it off. You got to say we're not using the title field.
Okay.
Then you can have a field day with it. Then it's yours to do what you want. And I should have mentioned when I was there, so we'll pop back, cancel. We'll pop back in there. In V8, you can also enter those into point of sale customers. Right here. You can enter your title. So you could say wholesale or whatever you want to. You can create a drop
Oh
down
wow.
menu for those.
Okay.
You can type them in on the fly too, but if you're looking for consistency, then create the drop down menu and have them just select it rather
Yeah.
than type it. Via.
Yeah. Cause. Okay.
Anyway, all right. So in V9, of course, in V9 we have a relational database. So if we look at, well, let's just, I don't want to spend a lot of time. This is not a reports webinar, but so let's take this report here out of curiosity and let's see what it is. So this is a S20. So yeah, I don't know if you guys can see right there, report path. This says that this is a report file name is an S20 there. So if I go
Okay.
into my V9 folder and into the reports folder, obviously. So this is a summary. So S being a summary. So this is an S20. There's an S20. And of course I have Crystal, so I can open an S20. Anybody can, if you buy Crystal, anybody can open this. It's not like it's
Okay.
a big deal. Um, there we go. That's exciting. And so this query in V9, the fields that are in the report are determined by the query. In this case here, if we go up to the top and say show the query, we have to say a couple of silly things here and then say yes, okay, and type in the secret password, which is surprisingly a report. This is using this query. So this is the package and this is the procedure. And that procedure there calls up a set of fields. And those fields can be viewed right over here on the left. So there's all the information that this query is getting. So it's getting their first and
Wow.
last name, the company level, regions, company name, mark fields, household code, Y, address fields, phone number fields.
Dang.
And we can query anything you want.
Okay.
So I had, in fact, I had a report modified, a basic item summary. I had it modified to be able to filter by customer auxiliary fields.
Wow.
I mean, here we're writing. We actually, I mean, you actually like this here, this S20 best sell procedure I just showed you, right? If you depending on how deep you want to go in V9 and be careful what you ask for in V9, right? We can actually go and open that up too. Takes a different piece of software, but you can open and you can modify it. Retail Pro has not locked it down. So if I go in here and find the basic summary, so we'll go down here. I got a lot of packages in here. Here's your report summary. We go to edit on that. That opens up the code, and then in here we have to go down and find the obviously the S20, right? So there's S20. So there's the queries right there. So those are declarations on the top that declares what the filter criteria is going to be for the query. And then down here we start your basic select statement. There's your select. So select asterisk all from, then they go to a nested select statement, of course, because that's what they do when they're writing all that stuff. But here's the fields. These are the fields they're calling out one by one, what fields they're selecting. So this can be modified too. So
Dang.
much more information than we probably need, but
Yeah.
anyway.
No, but it's good to know that it's
Well,
attainable.
that's the trade-off, right? We lose that quick draw ability to create a report in 3 minutes in V8, but we gain so much in reporting that with being able to do calculations, which I could go deeper into, but that's not what we're talking about today. So I'm not going to go waste our time on that. There are other webinars where we go much deeper into reports.
Okay.
All right, so I think we understand reports and their limitations, and let's talk about um, basically marketing by grabbing sales data and from the sales data extracting customers that meet certain criteria, right? So
Yep.
in version 8 and version 9, it exists in both versions, okay? In what it's called flag customers in version 8, it's called segmentation in version 9. In both cases, we're talking about basically being able to set some kind of flag or markup. So it is much easier in version 9, and the reason it's easier is just because it's on the main menu. They're right. It's right in front. But let's not start with the easy one. Let's start with a harder one, and then come back and show you that it's available on the other side. And I think it also shows you the retail pro got smart and realized that that V8 was a little too clunky. They tried to give you a really great tool, and they did give you a really great tool, by the way. So in Tools More, we have data verification, and this thing is a beast. Okay,
Yeah.
it's a beast. It is. Unfortunately, they put everything in this tool, and this thing has some very dangerous things in here. The
Yes,
most
it does.
dangerous being this repair mode over here. That'll open up the database and let you edit the records directly. So you could hack things up in there. So, so
Okay.
obviously this has to be passworded out, and it needs to do that. To open up a data file, you need exclusive access to the database. Well, that doesn't work so well though with things like marketing. So here we have flag customers, and so because flag customers is part of this extremely powerful tool, it also does not play nice with others. So basically, you got to do this before or after hours. You can't do this during regular business, except
I mean, yeah.
there's a way around it. If you've set up practice mode and you have a little shortcut to copy your practice data, then copy your practice data and then go into practice mode and run DVS out of practice mode.
Okay.
So if you're the only one in practice mode, then you're not sharing those data files with anyone else, if you follow.
I do.
So that's the trick anyway here. So what this tool does, this tool reads the sales history, right? And then marks or flags the customer records, and then we subsequently would go look for those customer records and query them or export them or whatever, right? So let's just say that wow, that's really old. So let's say we don't want to analyze all. So let's say we want T enter, and let's say we want I don't know what 010117. That's enough data, right?
Yep.
And what do you think? I don't. These were already in there, but I'm game. So let's flag everybody who's bought $1,000 or more.
Okay.
Now, there's a whole bunch of filter criteria we could go get. So I could be looking for people that bought from a specific vendor. I could be looking for people that live in a specific zip code.
Mm.
See, I could go crazy here. I could find everybody who bought that vendor that I want to do that trunk show with.
Mm.
I could flag them all. So you see what I mean? So I'm not going to put anything in these for now. I'm just actually going to back up and get rid of these altogether. I'm going to leave my filter blank because I just want to see people that bought more than $1,000. So let's go try it. I'll index that special. Really? She's breaking up, Captain. We can't hold her. That might be the case because my data in V8 was probably not as clean as it could be.
Yeah. That looks familiar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with me, I hack the stuff up. Um, well, let's do this. Let's go out and say let's start a little reconstruct, and we'll hop over to V9 and play in V9 for a minute, and we'll come back to V8, right? So
Okay.
we're only going to deal with 2017, right? We're not going to deal with older stuff. So we'll just grab the 2017 files, and I guess the 2018, but there's no data in the 2018 files because this sandbox has been idle for a while. So we'll grab all these. We'll say full full reconstruct. We'll start that little process rolling. And while it's having fun there, we'll just go out and do the same thing in V9. So in V9, we're going to say customer segment. And we're going to say I want a new customer segment, and we're going to put a date range in. Now, I'm going to have to go farther back in this one, so we'll do 0101, I don't know, 2012 to T enter. I have no data in here, so it's going to be awkward. Edit, we'll say new filter. We'll go right click and grab, stuff. In here you got sort of three kinds of fields maybe that you can use. I'm just going to point them out because there's a whole list of stuff in here. But these here, address one, I hope everybody sees that that's a native customer database field, right? So I could filter by anything that's in the customer database, their email, their phone number, whether we allow the emails, etc. There's also a bunch of fields that come from the receipt, and they say specifically that they come from the receipt. So if I wanted to, again, filter for everybody who bought that certain vendor, I'd have to go get the receipt item vendor code, filter by that, right? Mm-hmm. Then there's a bunch of stuff like this, total sales. Okay, that's a calculated field. So there's total sales, there's total visits. So what's the difference between total transactions and total visits? I could buy something, I could return it, and I could buy something else in the same day, which would cause 3 transactions, but visits are based on dates.
Oh, okay.
So 3 transactions in one day would only show as 1 visit. Anyway.
Okay.
So here we would say, I'm just going to say $100 to 9999 because I don't even know that I have any data that's decent here. So we'll just say, you bought more than $100. Okay, we'll say it's $100 plus I have to give it a name because it's going to want to save here. Mm-hmm. And then I need a name for the segment. And so we'll give it the same name, obviously. And I can put some notes in here, but I'm just going to click generate. And it's going to go out and find whatever it finds. It found 11 customers, and I could say show customers. And boom, there's my data. This is completely designable. Every field in the customer database is here. So I can add whatever fields I want. I can right click this. I could say select all. I could drop this out to Excel, and I could upload that to Constant Contact or whatever.
Mm-hmm. That'll be helpful.
Yeah, it's sweet. I mean, it's good. Now we could have added the email field, and we could have filtered for an @ sign. So that would have eliminated all the records here that have no email address, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I could. So the advantage to V9 in segmentation or in mining customer data is only that it's more convenient. V8 does it. Now let's go back to see if V8 is going to be friendly now. Okay, it finished. Beautiful. That's nice. So we'll close that. Beautiful. And let's go. It's probably the customer database I needed to hit, but who knows? Let's find out. So data verification, revision customers, and flag customers. And our date range is still squirrely, so we'll say 0101. No, we were going back pretty far on this one, right? So we'll say, we'll say 12, whatever. And we'll say, no, we only want to go 010117 to, let's do 123117. Okay, and let's go right to changes. Okay, and so let's say, new mark 1K. Okay, so I don't want it to be the same as anything else that might be out there, right? Mm-hmm. And so let's say start, and yes, always save your changes. So it's reading the sales files. Okay, so what you see here is Oscar here, right? Mm-hmm. Listed twice. And the reason Oscar is listed twice is because it's showing you the before, no mark, right? And the after with the mark. Mm. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and say next, and we're going to say yes, write the marks. Okay, I don't see that list of customers though, right? And that's the awkward part. That's the part that they fixed in V9. Is that this tool goes out and marks them. It doesn't show them to you. You have to go in and ask for them. So now if I go in here and say filtered view, and I say design my filter, make sure I got my mark fields. Okay, let's just find the mark fields here real quick. Yeah, there's mark 1 and 2 right there. So I want those 2 fields. Let's go to clear all. Let's say new mark 1K. That's what I put into my mark, right? And sort them by last name, sure. Boom, there they are. There's all the customers. And again, I could select all, and I could go in here and grab all of my data if I wanted to and export that out. No point in doing it again, but I hope everybody sees that
Oh yeah.
the tools are the same, both sides of the fence. We can do this, and we will look at something in V9 here in a minute that is one step beyond this that we can do in V9 that we can't do. I'm not sure it's that exciting, but there is one more thing that V9 can do that V8 can't do. But I think that you can see that in the DVS tool, you have very similar functionality to what you have in the segmentation tool in V9. Customers, flag, customer. So we've got the dollar amount stuff is all right there, right? We've got the filter criteria here for sales. So we can do this by a workstation. I don't know why. By department, we could filter for vendors. We could filter for items, sizes, leagues. We could filter for whatever we want to filter for on the item level. In the customer level, we could same thing: addresses, zip codes, phone numbers. I don't know what last sales date. All your aux fields. So you could filter for somebody who's been marked a certain way. Then you have your filter. Now be careful in here, because if you do have like a filter set up like this, and you switch it to or, then they could meet either criteria. You follow? So right now, you want and most of the time, and if you're on or and you have nothing on the bottom, that's like an open-ended query. It's going to give you everybody. So you always want to leave it on and, unless you specifically want or.
Okay.
Anyway, then in here you have two fields that you can process marks to, right? And you can also say I want to clear these marks, and then run it, and it'll just clear the marks. So with 2 marks, I hope everybody realizes you could snowball these marks together, right? So you could do 1 mark, and then you could filter in the mark field for that, and you could add other criteria to the second filter. So you could grab everybody that you got in the first pass, plus all the people that had bought more than $1,000. Or you could do Nike's vendor code, then you could come back and do Reebok, and you come back and do whatever, Jordan, whatever. You could just keep snowballing this thing in, getting a bigger and bigger list, so that each mark contained all the subsequent marks.
Okay.
For those people who really want to be a glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to keep your ducks in a row. You got to keep your head straight when you're doing that stuff. I'm just going to warn you, because you can screw it up faster than the program will screw it up.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, so the one little thing that we can do that's mildly exciting in V9 is, so this here we just did a segment on $100 plus in this measly database we had here, right? So let's go to the next section here. So down below segmentation, you have this thing that's called bins and scoring, which I don't know, the name's a little weird, to be honest, but let's do the same query we did in segmentation in bins and scoring, and this is exactly the same tool. Okay, this is going to find the same 12 customers or whatever we found a minute ago. Okay, it's going to find all the same customers, but what this will do is it'll break it up into two groups for me. So we're going to say, what do we say, like 010112 to present day, edit my filter, right click, go into filter design, drop to the bottom here, grab the same field, total sales, Go back to criteria. Say we want everybody that's $100 plus. Click OK. $100 plus is the name of the filter. Great. $100 plus is the name of the query. All right, now here's where it gets different. Okay, I want to break those into 3 groups. I want the metric to be based on their actual total sales. That's what I'm running it on, right? And I would like an equal customer count as opposed to equal metric or defining my own. So if I wanted to define my own, I could put the min and max values.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go ahead and say equal. Just divide them up equal as you can. Give me 3 groups, right? We'll say generate. So it found the same like 11 customers, right? So we'll say show bins, and then inside these now we can show customers. So in each bin now you can see who made what bin.
Wow. Okay. Dang,
Well,
that's
I mean,
specific.
when you get into visits and things like that, the lower end group that only came in once, you're going to mark it totally different than you would to the higher end group that came in like 300 times.
Makes sense.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir here, and here you're trying to get them to come back to you, right?
Yeah.
So dividing them up and 10 groups is a little excessive. I'm just going to say that's a little crazy, but definitely 2 or 3 groups is pretty manageable. I think worthwhile doing, and that's the only difference. So that's what a bends and scoring is. I don't know why the name bends and scoring. Why they just call it segmentation groups, but hey, I didn't make the name up.
Right. Okay.
So
That's really nice to know, especially with the company, people purchasing stuff.
it is the beauty in V9 is not functionality, because you can do everything in V8 you can do in V9. It's just that it's right here on the main screen. That's the only
Exactly.
makes it
A little
super
more
nice.
user friendly.
It is a lot more user friendly, and it's completely tolerant too. So you don't have to copy your data to practice, run the query, then go run the filtered view in practice, which you can do. You can do all that in V8 during business hours.
Mhm.
But you know,
Yeah, because usually if not, I would have to tell my employees to get off so
well,
I can
no,
use
yeah.
it real.
So in V8, if I'm going to ask in V8, I'm in V9 still, aren't I? Yep. All right, let's hold on. Let's go back to V8 here. Okay, that's V8. All right. Options. So right here, if we don't have it, we should have a button that moves data into practice. Okay, so to do that, and since we have we're done and it's like an hour to go, so we're probably going to end early today. But all right, so if we go into the V8 database, right? If we go into our version 8 database, RPro. Okay, so here is C Retail 8 RPro, because I only have a C drive. I usually would have an R drive, but this is a sandbox. It's not a real computer. It's a virtual computer.
Okay.
In here, I'm just going to go ahead and say new. Give me a new file, text document, and we're going to call this practice.bat. BAT is short for batch file. And so, yes, we're going to rename it. And okay, that's nice. There's already one there. All right. So we'll go look at the one that's there. So if you have a batch file and you right click it, you can go to edit. So all this says is it's copy asterisk means all wildcard. So copy asterisk everything that's got a dat ending to the practice folder. You could write this out more formally. A dot means back up one directory. So this says go up to the retail folder, then go to /practice. This is what that says. You could also we could have all said, if you wanted to be more formal, and any of my text could help you with this. This is something you do once, right? So anyway, I'm not going to go write it all out longhand. All right, don't save. So if we have this thing called practice.bat, right? Then the next thing we do is we look for a file called user menu.ini. And in user menu, you can open this up and modify different parts of it. So down here under options, we could say copy practice data. Now what you do here is you have to say what you're going to do. Like here they say the button name will be this, and it's going to go run that executable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you just follow the same example. So you say equals quote quote practice dot bat, right? Quote quote,
Mm-hmm.
just like they got it. And you click file save.
What about exe?
exe is an executable. A bat is a batch file. A batch file is a series of DOS commands that you and I would write. An executable is a series of programming commands that have been compiled.
I see.
Same thing, just different. What is it about the word compile that makes Siri want to ask me if I want help? That's weird. All right. So let's save this. There's just two different versions of the same thing, kind of.
Okay.
So now, right now, if I go into here, I don't see anything in the options menu. So I need to reload the options menu, if you see what I mean. It's not going to refresh real time. It loads the user menu INI when you load Retail Pro. So now you see copy
Oh
practice
wow.
data, and we click on that, and it opens a little window and copies my practice data over for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, so you could do this and be able to drop all your data in to practice mode. Now, across the network, that might take 5 minutes instead of 30 seconds, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
point is, you could flip the switch, go get some coffee, and come back, and you'd have practice data, right?
Yeah. Makes sense.
And once done, that's not something you'd ever have to do again. Once the button was added, it'd be there. So then it's just a matter of using it. So once you copy your data to practice, now I will warn you that when you copy your data to practice and you've got 5 workstations and they're using Retail Pro, then when I go into practice mode, it's going to think that their workstations are in use because you copied the locks. You copied all the data files. So the first thing you do is you come over to Tools and you go to RPro DB, right? And you remove all the locks. Just once it's in practice and it's sequestered, and yours will probably pop up and actually say, do you want to remove the locks, right?
Okay.
Mine didn't because I'm only got a sandbox and I'm the only workstation, so I can't be using RPro while, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, so for you guys that are on V8, if you copy your practice data, once you go into practice, first thing, just go to RPro DB. It'll say remove locks. Say yes, remove the locks. Let it load RPro DB. Close RPro DB. Then get done with that piece. And then at this point, you can go in and play around with tools more and data verification. And if you launch DVS from, okay, preferences is in use, abort, warning, Will Robinson. Oh, well, we already have that open, and oh, I got it. That's open. Okay, maybe I got too many things open here. Possibly. I don't know. Let's find out. Yeah. So there's DVS launch, but now since we launched it from practice, it's now looking at practice.
Oh, okay.
That's how it works. If you launch reports from practice, it looks at practice. If you launch DVS from practice, it looks at practice. So now I could go out and run all my stuff and do everything I want, and then I could hop back into here and go into the customer database, which would be the current customer database because I just copied it. Except that it's yellow at the bottom because we're in practice mode.
Mhm.
But yeah, I could go do the same stuff that I would do in real. It just takes more time. It's less convenient, but
Yeah.
you can do everything the same in V8 and V9. So
Okay. Heck yeah.
anyway, I think that's all we really have on our agenda today. Is there any other questions though about any other situations or marketing scenarios that anybody wants? You can ask questions in the chat, or Edgar, if you want to just throw one at me, you're more than welcome.
Not Not at the moment. I'm pretty good. I'm still kind of just trying to understand it a little more. Then afterwards, I think I will have some questions.
Yeah, I'm looking over like some scenarios they give us, like some of the examples that I was given here from another spreadsheet on one of my other monitors here. Give your sales rep a list of customers who have not ordered in the past 90 days. So if they've not ordered in the past 90 days, that means their last sales date is greater than 90 days ago, right?
Mhm.
So that would be a filtered view, just right in the customer database, right? So, in other words, if I had sales reps, which I don't know that I do, but if I had sales reps, right, I could optionally be using one of those. Nice. There's no form view on this design in practice. That's just so great. I could be using. There's no. Let's get out of practice. I can only deal with that for so long. All right. So
Okay.
if I wanted to in my database, if I had sales reps, I could use one of those auxiliary fields we were looking at earlier, and I could call it sales rep, and I could put my sales reps' names in there, right?
Mhm.
I could also then go to filtered view, and I could use last sales date, right? So I could say, actually clear all. I could say whatever 010117 to T enter minus 90, right?
Wow.
So show me people that have a last sold date of more than 90 days ago that are from that rep, right? I could do whatever I set up. I can go query for.
Yeah.
Anyway, um,
Wow.
so the next one is like pull a direct mail list of customers living in the same zip code as a competitor store. Okay, well, all right, that's a filtered view too, probably, right? So clear all. I would need to have the zip code, right? So I'd need to say it's Schenectady, New York. That's the easiest zip code, right? 12345.
Mhm.
I'm sure there's nobody in this database from that area, but I could certainly filter for everybody that comes from a certain zip code, right? And then once I filtered for that, it would just be a matter of having. So what zip codes do we have here? Let's get some. So 93647. So 93647. Nice. Now you could, with I know with Sacramento, 95814, 95816, 95827. There's typically a range. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So you could do that here. That's why they give it
Okay.
two fields. And so you could easily pull a list of customers, and okay, that's the only one that's in that zip code. Nice. Anyway, the point is that then you got an address field, right? You could export all these out just that fast, right?
Mhm.
So that's not hard. Send an anniversary card to customers who have made a recent purchase. Well, all right, that's filtering by last sales date, but for the most recent purchase instead of more than 90 days ago, right?
Mhm.
Send an email to all customers who have purchased a specific vendor. Right. So to do that now, to send them to a specific vendor, you'd have to use the flag customer utility to mark their record as having purchased that vendor, right?
Correct.
And so to send an email to all customers, okay, so then once you did the flag customer and marked them as having purchased from that vendor, you then would have to go into the filtered view here, clear all, and then you would need their email address field. Is email in here? Email is surprisingly in here. Excellent. So we would have to say, you know, mark one, right? So having my mark, right? So my mark, whatever, right? And then I would have to say also having an email address. To do that, you just have to put an @ sign there, right? Because every email has an @ sign.
Mhm.
So first I'd have to run that utility, mark them, come back and say, show me everybody that met my criteria and has an email. I'd like to upload that and do a little constant contact, or what is that other one? Monkey Chimp, or I don't know. There's lots of options out there for that one. right? Pull a list of phone numbers from your highest volume accounts to request a referral or endorsement. So pull a list of phone numbers. That's trickier, right? So we could absolutely go get the best customers out of reporting, right? But we can't get their phone numbers, not in V8. V9 we can, but not in V8. So in V8 that would be a bestseller report with the phone number added. Pretty easy to do for any of us technicians that have Crystal, or if you guys have Crystal at your end, you could absolutely add that to the V9 report for the one we looked at anyway. So the ways to accomplish that would be in V8, run the report, right? Run the bestseller report. Find out what the lowest customer sales are, right? Once you find out the lowest customer sales, then you can go into the flag customer utility, mark everybody that's above that mark, right? Then you could just go pull a filtered view by that mark, and you've got their phone numbers.
Wow. Okay.
That's pretty easy. Another option in V8, and this requires you know what you're doing in Excel, but another option would be that in here in V8, I've done this in V9 too, by the way. There are times when you just need to do weird stuff like this. If you exported everybody out with their ID or with some kind of key phrase, key mark, the ID being the best, then you could export your customer database out. You could run the bestseller report with the customer ID, and you could do what's called a VLOOKUP. A VLOOKUP is a function that takes data from one spreadsheet in Excel and puts it into the other. So you could take the customer bestseller report and VLOOKUP. I'm not going to go through it. I could do one for you. I'm actually pretty good at it now, although it hurt me in the beginning. It hurt me severely. I will tell you, if you ever try a VLOOKUP, go out to YouTube. Look, just watch 2 or 3 videos before you even try it.
Okay.
It's a tricky one. And we could do it. It's actually not hard. Was that something you'd use ever?
Not quite.
Because I can show it to you if you think it'd be worth it.
At this moment, it would be fine.
Right. So you're not interested in seeing that, is what I'm hearing.
Mhm.
All right. Because it's a cool thing. It's a very slick thing to see, by the way. But anyway, that just gives you some options, though, because and really, VLOOKUP is an amazingly powerful tool. So I would strongly recommend considering that down the road. But it gives you options that you didn't have before. Anyway, so we've already lost Lisa. It looks like she got tired of my rambling, which I can understand totally. And I see Morgan and Bill are still out there. And do you guys have any questions? Or are we wrapped up for the day?
I believe so. On my end, I'm pretty good.
Well, thank you, Edgar. I really appreciate you jumping in. I really appreciate your participation. It's nice to have somebody to talk to on these things. I got to tell you, it gets pretty boring.
Yeah. It can get very boring and isolated.
Well, yeah, when you can't. I like playing off somebody, doing what we do, and it's just nice. I really appreciate it. I just want to thank you very much for that. That being said, thank everybody for attending. Wait a second. No, that's not it. I thought we had a question. I was wrong. I'm going to tell you guys to have a good day, and we'll talk to you on the next one.
All right. We'll talk to you on the next one.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.